Last month, a big news report came out about how most Gen Z workers have turned to astrology to know whether or not they'll get a promotion this appraisal season. Career questions have gone up by 60% on Astro Yogi, an astrology consultation app.
Users are also opting for live sessions like tarot card reading to understand which way their career will go.
While Arjun hasn't turned to astrology just yet, but he has all of the same questions.
Right now, I'm only concerned about my promotion. And if I ask you when will I be promoted, will you be able to answer it? I don't know. I'll probably have to ask my manager.
Don't we all wish somebody could just tell us that? But hey, I'm no fortune teller. I'm just a podcast host. But 2 years back, around this time, Arjun joined his company as an associate product manager. Fresh out of college and in an entry-level position, it is a software company headquartered in Sydney, Australia. The company had a pretty clear career path laid out for freshers.
Basically, it's a 2-year rotational program where in the first year you work in a certain team, and then in the second year you work for another team, and then you sort of get to choose which stream of work do you want to go with.
Gotcha.
And for me, I am at the cusp of completing those 2 years.
2 years is typically when most people get promoted. And not getting a promotion at the end of 2 years means it's cause for concern.
It's a 2-year cycle, and beyond which, it does not show very well on the resume because it might mean that some way or the other that you have not contributed all that well. Let's say if you don't get promoted at all. But right now I'm positive that I will. And as for the appraisal cycle, since my appraisal cycle happens 6 months after the regular appraisal cycles, that's why we have this delay. But yeah, positive so far, and then let's see how that goes.
Even as Arjun was vying for his promotions, he observed that there are exceptions to this trend. There are other people who joined around the same time as him who were getting promoted sooner than 2 years. And it left him wondering.
So within the same company, you see these varying trends. So maybe if you could maybe help me answer on a wider level. I'm not sure if you can pull that off, but basically, how does promotion cycle change for different companies and within companies, different teams? Like in what team would you expect yourself to be promoted quicker? Like in what environment do you have to be in so that you stand at a higher probability of getting promoted,
What's the question? Why do some people get promoted quickly compared to others?
Yeah. And like, how does that affect growth?
Wanting to get a promotion is a universal desire. Everyone wants a promotion. But many of us have been tripped up by the corporate ladder at some point in time, whether you're just starting out or even those who have made it to the top. This is The First 2 Years, a show where we ask and answer the toughest questions around work, especially in your early career. I am Akshaya Chandrasekaran, and on today's episode, we go behind the scenes of how these promotion decisions are made and try to decipher who gets promoted and why. Now it's worth taking a moment to understand why Arjun thinks he deserves a promotion. Arjun had to reflect back and introspect the same question when he was filling out his appraisal form.
So when I came about compiling that, I realized that I have added value, and I also think that at this point, it would be a little weird to say from my mouth, but I see myself as someone indispensable. And let's say in a hypothetical situation, if I'm not there, there'll be work which will be stalled because of my absence.
I know what you're thinking. Everyone thinks they're performing all the time, but it's not just self-evaluation, right? Arjun has also been getting consistent positive feedback.
Obviously, there is feedback from all around. Since I collaborate with a lot of different teams, Especially to me, they have like a lot of positive feedback. I'm not sure what happens behind the back, but I joined as an engineering grad right away in this role. When people say that I'm punching above my weight and I'm being valuable to them, that feels good, and that makes me confident that hey, maybe I can now go to the next level.
Along with him, Arjun says, there are 4 other people who are due for promotion.
I joined in with 3 other folks who
Yeah.
have the same role as me. So we are hoping that all of us get promoted, but yeah, let's see.
Can all of them get promoted? Arjun thinks there should be no problem in doing that.
In fact, that should happen. That ideally should be the case because all of us, number one, are working in different teams. And I mean, to the company, it really shouldn't hurt promoting people, right? And compensating them for the efforts that they do.
Okay, let's just stop here and remember Arjun and his colleagues haven't yet concluded their process. So we don't know yet if it actually turns out that way, but we can find that out from Kamal Karant. He's not a fortune teller, but he is an HR consultant. He's also the founder of Expino, a specialist staffing company headquartered in Bangalore, India.
Promotions are of 2 kinds, the way I look at it. One, there are seat promotions, as I call it, where you just get promoted, you end up doing the same job, you get more money. So that's one kind of promotion as well, where people aspire to be in that, mostly in the tech world.
The second kind of promotion means managerial role, a new role with more people to manage.
For me, that's a real promotion. That means you're doing something else after getting the promotion. In many places, it's about getting more money. And for that reason, promotions are not default, especially when they are supposed to manage more people, because many organizations have their own span of control fixed. That means they will say one manager will have 8 people, 10 people. At best, I think 10 is a stretch, but I think organizations go up to 8 people in terms of reporting span of control. So you can imagine that there can only be that many positions of managers because of the span of control that they define in. So if everybody can get promoted if it's just a seat promotion of getting more money.
Just to be clear, span of control simply means the number of people who report to a manager. Ideally, like Kamal says, it should be 8, forming a pyramid structure if you're a large corporation. But if you're a startup that believes in flat hierarchies, you'll have a lot more people than 8 reporting to one person. Okay, so you want to retain the organizational structure, but why not give everyone a seat promotion? More money to do the same job with an upgraded title. Isn't that a win-win for everybody?
That's detrimental to the organization to give more money to do the same job, right? So only few people get it. So that's the logic I want to put in terms of why everybody should not or cannot get a promotion.
So even seat promotions are done to make you feel somewhat special. As a reward for your job, the organization is willing to bear the extra cost because they want to retain you.
You generally want to keep the person interested and give them a spot of recognition that, hey, look, you're more important than you used to be. So I give you more money. I call you now principal architect instead of senior architect that you were. So sometimes it's purely to keep the person motivated and anchored to the role so they can, get more from them. And sometimes it is to support the structure as well.
If not everybody is going to be selected, then what do you need to get selected? Is what Arjun doing enough?
I see myself as someone indispensable, and like let's say in a hypothetical situation, if I'm not there, there'll be work which will be stalled because of my absence.
You work hard and hit your targets. Are you a shoe-in for promotions? Kamal says there are several reasons why people get promoted, but here are top 3 reasons that he's observed managers of many top companies deploy to make sure the right people get promoted. Number 1 is the bandwidth test.
For me, when I look at promoting somebody, I look at, okay, does this person have bandwidth for more? Because when you're in a manager role, you get that much more influx to your time. More people are asking for your attention, more people asking for deadlines to be met. Your bosses are going to go put more pressure on you. So it's a bandwidth test. Anybody who's reporting to me who currently is unable to manage their bandwidth, I think as good as they are in their job, they're hitting the ball out of the park, I will never consider them for a promotion. I'll give them a great hike, good bonus, and say stay put.
It kind of sounds like if you're so busy at work, you'll have no time to do the job. It can be easy to fall into the trap of believing that extra hours will get you that promotion. But not being able to manage your workload and bandwidth is a red flag when it comes to promotion. Number two is
An orientation towards relationship. I was a great sales guy, but I didn't know how to make relationship with my team, or with my boss. Because if I don't do both, I cannot handle. Because there's always going to be pressure, and every time, unless you're hitting the ball out of the park, you cannot manage the pressure that comes your way. And we know performance is never going to be consistent. So I look at relationship is a very crucial element and it doesn't come naturally to people. Either you have a capability for relationship or you have an intent for relationship. I look for these two.
so far, nothing about performance has come up. I was hoping the next one is going to be about that, but instead, Kamal says the third big thing is about perception and not performance.
Yeah, I think it's a set of experiences that creates the perception, honestly, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes in isolated instances when we have exposure to a super bosses, let's say he or she was in town, we had to do something, one single client, let's say we messed up, and the person remembers only that. But then, when we ask them, they say, hey, no, why this person? I think this person is very sloppy. I went for a client meeting, it was so messy. So we make perception based on singular episodes, right? Whereas the manager would have experienced them over a period of time and they know the exceptional value of the person, right? So perception for me is a set of experiences. So I guess, if you're consistent in who you are, people will know the real you.
You cannot hand yourself a promotion, others have to. So I kind of understand why perception matters, but I can also totally imagine why a bad boss could be a bottleneck. A manager's biases about a whole lot of subjective things could totally inform their perception of you, no doubt. When you're talking about all this, I can't help but wonder if so many people are right when they say, you have to suck up to your boss or partake in office politics, and your work doesn't really speak for itself. You have to, come to the forefront and all of that. They're all sort of right? You have to do all of these things.
See, if you are somebody who thinks who cannot handle organization politics, and your organization is of a certain kind where visibility matters, you have to go to parties, and that's your impression of your organization, then I think if you are to get promoted, you better do all those things. As far as the term politics is concerned, I consider politics as an act of you taking care of your self-interest or your teams. If you're not capable of that, then you shouldn't aspire to get promoted, because that is the game you're going to play. When you reach on top, you have to take care of your interests, your team's interests. And for me, sometimes taking care of your team's interests may come at the cost of others. That's when it becomes politics, right? You lobby better than your peer. And maybe that's the reason you got more budgets. Maybe you got more promotions to your team, right?
Research corroborates what Kamal says. Performance only takes you so far. You need all of those other things. You need to pass the bandwidth test, form relationships, and know how to get people to rally for you. Theoretically, all of it makes sense, but even if I have to do all of these things, where do I begin? Do I have to ask, or should it just be handed to me? If I were to ask, whom should I ask? After the break, how to make a case for your promotion. Are there any promotions that can be taken for granted? Promotions that are owed to you by virtue of tenure and performance and all of that?
A promotion is a very, I would say, how do I put this? It should never be taken for granted. Nobody is due for a promotion, right? It means that you have to create the right situation. You have to be part of the right set, right? Otherwise, as much as you worked hard and been great, there are 1,000 other reasons to not get a promotion, right?
Tushar Turumella is the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Appreciate, a trading platform. He's someone who's head teams across startups like Unacademy and been in large corporations like Anadoc and PepsiCo. If promotions can never be taken for granted, like he says, how do you make a case for it, and whom do I have to ask?
The answer is very simple, right? The right manager, right? And the manager theoretically is always incentivized to retain their team, because new people means new training, new ways of working, time turnaround time of alignment, right? So align your manager first. A bunch of stuff might happen, right? Maybe the manager, like I said, doesn't hold enough purchase in the organization. Maybe the manager is just a bad person. Maybe the manager doesn't like you personally. Maybe the manager thinks you've not done anything great. Maybe the manager thinks, oh my God, this is such a amazing resource. I will move heaven and earth, right? But ask the manager.
Well, even if you approach your manager, there is no certainty that you will get a yes. That conversation is about selling the organization of two things and two things only. Tushar says it's almost like a checklist you can keep in mind before you enter the room to have this conversation. Number one is your
Business criticality. I have done great stuff. You know, these are the challenges on my plate. I am looking to solve them. I want to solve them, and therefore I need to be here. And please, therefore, make it interesting or viable or, whatever.
It's best to do it before or after a big win at your work, where you have tangible metrics to substantiate how essential you are to operation.
The second thing is convince the organization that you're a long-term bet. So business criticality can also be short-term, right? Ki I am important for you right now because if I go tomorrow, which I'm threatening to or whatever, right? Then your business collapses, right? Which doesn't find purchase, right? Which is then I as a manager, if I'm smart, I will work to retain the employee now, but also in my mind plan for a backup, a less expensive one, right? That's the way I will ensure business continuity, right?
So it's all selling understanding, but it's also not easy to convince someone that you're a long-term bet in like one conversation, right?
So the best thing is to do these two things in simultaneous fashion. One is tell them why you're important and tell them that you are convinced that this organization is going to be your professional bloodstream for the next X years, and therefore you buy into their story, right?
The checklist you have to run in your mind to have this conversation is business criticality and long-term bet. Instead, there are multiple other things that people have done which has resulted in a no. I was just curious to know if Tushar has ever said no to a request for promotion. He says he typically rejects requests mentally that start with, I have been here for X number of years, therefore I need a promotion. Using tenure as the reason to get promoted makes the manager wonder why you haven't yet been in the right pool of candidates and give you vague feedback on how to improve, but not what you want, the promotion itself. Another way people do it is wait for too long and finally burst out of frustration. Kamal says he's done it in his own career early on.
Sometimes you can just be, like I said, you can just be foolish. Like once I asked, I got away, and sometimes the second time I asked, I was simply angry. I got nothing from it, but I just said what I had to say because at least it was my catharsis. I told you that I wanted a promotion. I thought I deserved it. I didn't get it, but I eventually got, at that point of time. I went with a point of view of catharsis.
Okay, here are my 3 main takeaways that I got from the conversation. 1, it's never too early to start thinking about your first promotion and figuring out the process at your organization. Getting a promotion is a long game. 2, have a strategy when you go into the conversation. You need to convince them that you're not only essential to the business right now, but you're also a long-term bet. 3, your promotion is not based on your performance entirely. This is a big one for me. You need to think about other factors around bandwidth, relationships, and perceptions. I also want to underscore something that Kamal mentioned kind of in passing that is really important. Biases and perception are real. And we didn't even get into that as much in this episode, but we'll definitely talk more about dealing with difficult bosses and co-workers in the future episodes. By the way, Arjun is not the real name of the character featuring in the episode. Their name was changed to protect the identity of the person. Next week, we'll be talking about influencing without authority. What does that mean? You're new to the workforce, you don't have a title or authority, so how do you get people to cooperate with you, take your ideas seriously, and listen to you? Check back next week for that. We have Dr. Nashita Dew Solheim, a world-renowned psychologist, joining us for that episode. Thank you so much for all the listeners who write in week after week with their questions and concerns and share their stories so candidly. We love hearing from you, so keep sending your career questions. All the information you need about reaching out is in the show notes. If you liked what you heard, follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. This episode was written, hosted and produced by me, Akshaya Chandrasekaran. Our in-house sound engineer is Rajiv Sian. Thank you. See you next Tuesday. Bye.